Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to turn your ideas into results? We've got a killer show for you, so hang tight. We'll be right back. Hey, Giants. Welcome back to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Nick Smith. I'm usually joined by Ryan Morris, but he's off fishing in Alaska today, and so he won't be joining us. A little bit of housekeeping before we jump in. I want to announce we've got our upcoming Sum Gigante group on July 29th. So if you're interested in exploring that, reach out to me. I'll get you details. You can also see that on giantsandSmalls.com. Or actually just DM me and I'll get you the link. It's probably easier that way. And then I also wanted to give an update on The Tortoise's Hair. It's my newest book that's coming out at the end of July. I'm going to share some imagery here so that you guys can see what's going on with that. This book is another beautiful metaphor, similar to the Giants and the Smalls, similar reading length, and something that will really inspire you to love yourself, accept yourself, and hold space for others who might be going through something challenging. The artist Eduardo Page did our artwork through this entire book. The message is surely going to inspire you and your family and people you know that might be struggling with self-worth and self-acceptance. And so I look forward to getting this on the market here at the end of July. That's my commitment to you. And if you'll drop a comment here and let me know what you think of the imagery and the layout so far. We've gone through beta readers, we've done editing, we've simplified, and really have made this an impactful book that I know is going to shift your life and other people that you know in your world. So look forward to that at the end of the month. In the comments, you're going to see a link here for music. So if you want to get inspired by music that'll uplift you, this is my personal channel on Amazon Music, and you'll see that on Spotify as well if you're over there. And I'm starting to post these to YouTube so that you can listen to them on YouTube. And so we've got another great show for you today. So I'll be watching the comments. I'll be juggling. I feel like a one-man band a little bit, like playing the drum and singing and playing the guitar and everything all at once. So I'll be watching the comments. If I miss you, I'll go back and share. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. So today we're joined by Rich Habets, a dynamic entrepreneur, consultant, and speaker from the Netherlands. Rich is known for his straightforward and engaging style, focusing on leadership development and personal growth. He's founded several impactful programs, including Project You, About You, and You Next, which support large organizations in successfully navigating change. Through his company, The Possibility Company, Rich empowers organizations to transition effectively into new futures. Currently, he's leading the Closing the Gap program, helping innovators and coaches turn ideas into tangible results swiftly. And he's also launching his Trusted Advisor community, which we'll learn about today as well. And so we want to welcome Rich to the show. It's good to have you here.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you so much. And by the way, being a one-man band, Bob Dylan did a good job with that. So
good. So I can handle it. Man. I appreciate you. I've been through your Trusted Advisor program twice now, and it has served me deeply on many levels. And so I just want to appreciate you for that. And as we go into today's message is going to be more about you and your life and who you are and how you came to be who you are today. And I really like exploring, the identity that you used to have around yourself. I would imagine that during upbringing, you developed some identities around who you thought you were, and there was some kind of shift around that. Is that accurate, or have you always been who you are today?
No, absolutely. I wasn't even yesterday who I am today. The shift is ongoing. Yeah. So yeah.
Tell me about it. Yeah. Do you have a point?
Well, of course. Yeah. Look, it's very clear to me when I look back, and by the way, thank you for that introduction.
You're very welcome.
When I look back at my life, as with everybody, everybody would do that. You look back, you kind of laugh at who you were like 10 years ago, maybe 20 or 30, 40 years ago. And I certainly do that. I've always been somebody who wanted to make it. Right, I wanted to make it. When I came out of school, I studied information technology. So I got off of university when I was 24, and I was officially a software architect, even though I didn't like that. I didn't like software architecture. I just thought it was cool. And at the time, this was 2000, 1999, 2000. That was, the way to make a career. If you had something to do with IT, that would just guarantee you for the rest of your life job, a good income, status, and all that stuff. And back then, that was really important for me because I was trying to make it. Right. By the way, back then, I had no idea there was another path than trying to make it. So I got into consulting, did that for a long period of time. And after that, I got into leadership roles in companies. But a lot of people, for instance, told me that I was never listening. Right? They always told me, Rich, you're not listening. And I always thought, well, then maybe you don't get me. Maybe you should be a little bit smarter. That was my reaction, right? I always thought, why don't they get me? And the funny thing actually happened. I once did this test, a Mensa test. Do you know what? Do you have that in the US, Mensa?
I don't know. Tell us about it. I haven't heard that one.
Well, Mensa is for people who have higher than average IQs. Right? So I did a test. This shows you the arrogance that I had back then. So I did a test online and I scored like enormously high, right, on the test. And they said to confirm that you have this high 140 plus IQ or whatever it was, 130 plus, you have to come in and do the test also in the office so that we can confirm. And then you're part of this elite club of very smart people. And you know what I did with the result? It was for me like a confirmation, like, see, I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. I'm just too smart for this planet.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used it as a way to, justify my own behavior and just keep running. And then everybody else who can follow, well, too bad for them. I'm not going to adjust to them. And of course, Nick, that got me in all kinds of trouble, right? With clients, with colleagues, with bosses, because I thought I knew better. And the knowing better, I can actually trace that back to childhood, right?
Okay.
I can really see an event when I was like 12, 13 years old. I was in class, and the most popular girl in the school, so the teacher was reassigning how we were sitting in class, right? And the most popular girl in school was called Tanya. And he said, Tanya, go sit next to Rich. And she looked around and she said, oh, I'm not going to sit next to him. I was sitting there like, okay, I'm going to act as if this doesn't affect me at all. But internally, it went like, oh my God, public humiliation. So I closed myself off from the world. I was just sitting there like, get this over with. This doesn't hurt, even though it hurt like crazy. Yeah. So she sat next to me and we had these two separate like desks. And she took her desk and she slid it to the left. And the whole class turned around, laughing at me. And I was sitting there like, no. From that moment on, I made a decision. All right, see, I'm not popular. I don't belong to the popular kids. And from that moment on, I started to become, if I cannot be popular and liked, then I'm going to be smart.
How interesting. Yeah. Can we hang here for a minute? And then continue as well. The impact of events like this and what we make them mean really create our identity and a pathway for us to be something. Even, you were somebody who is incredibly intelligent as a solution to not being popular. And instead of being in a space of how can I serve others or help the world or make the world a better place, it became of how do I survive this in a way, and take care of me and do things that are going to affect me. And I don't care how it affects other people out here. And you get into that world and that becomes your reality, all from one single event.
Yeah. And then of course you get confirmation because you start to look in the direction of, see, I'm not popular. And then of course you're going to see all kinds of confirmations that you're not popular. And the more you see that, the more you dig into that position, like, okay, so I'm obviously not what I want to be. So I'm
Yeah.
going to be the smart one. So from that moment on, it became for me very important to be right, to know more than other people, to analyze, to think. Basically, instead of living in the heart where connection lives, right? Being popular, that's more like between. I started living here.
Mm.
So I went from heart to head, and then and of course that's why I got into consulting, and in consulting I got in trouble, and this survival strategy. The problem with a survival strategy is that it has its limits, right? Because at a certain moment, it doesn't work anymore,
Mm.
right? I made a good salary at the consulting firm. I had a nice car, I had a nice house, and blah blah blah. But Nick, I was never happy. I was never satisfied. It wasn't. So whenever I would win a debate, that would be like, and then I would be dissatisfied because I knew I was dominating another person. I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
But somebody said once to me, if you only have one strategy, that's even worse than having no strategy at all. Right? So I only have one strategy to survive, and that is to be smarter than anybody else, covering up that I don't belong. Right? I don't belong to the popular one, so let me be the smart one. So it's basically a fix for what you couldn't be. And that stayed with me for a long time, long time. I think it was 40 when I first did I did Landmark Forum. And that's when I first started seeing like, whoa, I'm actually running a survival strategy that never makes me happy or satisfied or fulfilled.
Does that lead to isolation?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why do we do that? So we're wired for human connection. We're wired for social connection. We can't survive truthfully without social connection, even in a small degree. And when we get into a survival state, the tendency is to shut down and really be self-interested, self-preserving, um, inconsiderate, of other people, non-compassionate to ourselves and others, very judgmental, insecure, like all these negative
Yeah.
things come up, right? When we get into that survival state. Do you have some thoughts on that? Like why is that? Why do we go there as human beings?
Well, because at a certain moment you think that's the way to survive, right? And then you get confirmation for being smart because you get a raise in salary and you get your next promotion, and then you get a pat on the back because you did a project and it became a great success, or you get pats on the back for being the smart boy in the class, right? Other people, for instance, they decide, oh, I have to be different, right? So I'm not liked, so I'm going to be different. So they're going to do everything else that everybody else is doing. So if everybody else is playing football, they start playing ice hockey just to be unique, right? So my way of being unique was being smarter and knowing more and knowing better. So what I would do, Nick, is I would surround myself. There were two options. Either when I would speak to you, I would either decide that I was better than you because I knew more, or you were better than me. In that case, I would hire you as my mentor. Right? I would surround myself with smart people. I would write emails to authors of books that I read, right? And I would visit people that I thought were very smart just to become smarter myself, because my whole sense of worth was being the smart one. When I got into consulting, guess what? Everybody in consulting is smart.
Yeah.
So I felt threatened. And I felt so threatened. Funny story. When I was about 24, 25, I started losing my hair, right? As everybody can see, I'm a little bit further down the path right now.
Great style. I like it. Yeah.
Same barber. So when I got into consulting, I noticed that, hey, these people are smarter than me. And not only are they smarter, they're more experienced. And they're often older than I was. So, of course, my survival strategy had to kick it up a notch. So I noticed that I was losing my hair, and I thought, wait a minute, people don't take me seriously when I'm losing my hair. So I went to this, these people that do the trans hair, when they transplant the hair.
Yeah.
So I would go there and I'd say, you know what, I'm in consulting, and people don't take me seriously without hair. And he said, yeah, that's true, because he saw a cell coming up. And I actually got a hair transplant
Huh.
because I thought people would take me more seriously. That's how this whole
Holy crap.
survival
Yeah.
strategy was in control. It had me by the balls, and it was on the steering wheel of the car, and the
Yeah.
brakes and the speeding paddles. It had everything, and I thought I was leading the car. But
Very,
it's
very
survival.
convincing, right? It's like, I'm going to make you think that this is you, but this is me really running your life. The
Exactly.
survival. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That
Huh.
mechanism was doing my life, and I was just totally oblivious that was happening. In the meantime, I wasn't satisfied. I didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of loving relationships. Sure, I made money. Sure, I had a nice car. Sure, I had a nice house. But there was no satisfaction, no lasting satisfaction. I had high blood pressure when I was 27. I got medication for high blood pressure. So this mechanism, is willing to kill the body in order to survive.
Hmm. Amazing, right? This applies. Okay, so you did it with intelligence. Some people do it with food. Some people do it with drugs. Some people do it with alcohol or sex. And so it's as long as you're in that survival state, then you're a lot of times out there trying to find ways to fill that dopamine hit, that serotonin, that oxytocin, that fulfillment. But every time you get the hit, it's like chasing the dragon, I think is what they call it in drug addiction. Is
Yeah.
you're chasing the dragon and it's never enough. You're constantly out there trying to find the next thing. And then a bigger fish comes along and then all of your insecurities come in and now you've got to battle for the next thing. Hair transplants. It seems to be a human uh, response. I was going to say context or construct, but that's not quite it. So it's more of a response or a reaction to what's going on in our inner world. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, well, context is the right word, because the context of my life was I need to be better than in order to feel self-worth. Right? To give you an idea, this survival strategy, right? It makes you so it's who you are being, right? We have some people in the audience that we know what I mean when we talk about who I'm being was I need to be better than. I need to
Yeah.
know better. I need to be better. I need to be more successful. So from that being, what I did was, if I would travel, I wouldn't just fly economy. Wasn't good enough, because I needed to be more successful. I needed to fly business. If I would stay in a hotel, if I would do a program somewhere, and everybody else would stay at a Marriott, wait a minute, I needed to stay at another level, or at least I needed to have the suite in the Marriott.
Wow. Holy
Right?
crap. Yeah.
And let's distinguish. It wasn't me that wanted that. It wasn't that mechanism that was driving the car that wanted that. And I had no idea who I was in the whole thing. It wasn't distinguished.
Yeah. Wow. I when we use our 12 journeys framework, this is where we see people responding from. I do it, other people do it. Is that non-conscious journey, that first journey that we go through, is all around this identity that we have, because that identity drives the bus. It's who we think we are, that whether it's the survival mechanism or we're at peace and we're acting from our being, it's that internal non-conscious state that really determines what goes on out here. And when people wake up to it, they don't wake up to it gently. They wake up to it very viciously and violently, very shamefully. They give themselves guilt. They judge themselves. They justify themselves. And then they spin themselves right back into their non-conscious state. So it's like they come out and they pop out and they're like, oh, I'm waking up to this and I don't like what I'm seeing. And they go back to it because it's better to be with the devil you know than the one you don't know. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then the emotions come up and they're like, I don't like these emotions. So they numb out in some form, whether it's buying first class tickets or drinking alcohol, it doesn't matter. We numb out and then we're not okay with our life. So we don't accept our life like the journey of acceptance teaches. We reject our life and we resign to our life and we spin back to non-consciousness. So we're stuck, and it's very uncomfortable and it's not who we are. No matter how much of that you repeat in your life, repetition and automation doesn't mean that you're destined to that thing. Is that what you found as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I really believe that we no matter how strong the mechanism, I always felt like, wow, it's not who I am. This is not giving me satisfaction. It's not giving me the fulfillment.
Mm.
Because at a certain moment, my parents raised me as, all right, so Rich, go to school, get a good education, then you get a good job, then you get a good income, you buy a nice house, you get a nice wife, you get a dog and two kids, and then you're happy.
Right.
Like so many of us have heard,
Like
right?
they were taught.
Like
And,
they were
and
taught.
their
I don't
parents
blame
were
them.
taught.
It's
Yeah.
just the context of, what they lived in.
Okay.
So the moment I had that, I looked around, I was like, all right, where's the satisfaction in this? Because my life just got busier and I have more things on my plate and I'm thinking the whole day. I wake up with worries. I'm thinking about projects. I don't feel that sense of satisfaction. Right? So, but no matter how much that mechanism is in control, and it's 99.9, there's always this thing that like this flicker inside, right? That goes like, hey, there's something more. But as long as I don't, back then, as long as I didn't know another strategy, you keep following what you know, like what you said.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. You use what you have, right?
Yeah, you use what you have. And then of course the mind tells you a story. What, am I supposed to quit my job and live on the curb somewhere? And then, but that's not a good life. But that's the mind giving you the total opposite as the only option. It's either this or that.
Yeah. And you're like,
Right?
wait, it's black or white, right? It's like one extreme, one pendulum to the other.
And that's not true either.
Right. Huh.
Right? But to
Yeah.
your mind, it's like, oh, but if I quit my job, then we have to live on the street, and then my kids will starve, and we get a divorce, and blah, blah, nobody,
Slippery
blah, blah, blah.
slope.
And
Yeah.
I'll die when I'm 40, whatever.
It's catastrophizing and it's slippery. It's like, but that's how the mind thinks.
Yeah.
And as intelligent as you are, your mind was thinking that way.
Well, my mind was fully and still, right? So this is not something that I've left behind, but I'm just aware now.
Okay.
I know what this thing is doing, right? I won't get rid of it, right?
I like
Even
that.
if you listen to the great sages of history and the wisdom teachers, you never lose it. It's there, but you become aware of it. So you take a distance from it. So you're no longer it. You take a distance, and then all of a sudden there's this whole thing that talks to me the whole day. I need to be worthy. I need to do this. I need to be respected. I need to make money, and blah 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 blah. And there's another option, and the other option is I want to be a person with peace of mind. I want to lead a balanced life. I want to show people how much I love them, and I want to do work that fulfills me. So every day I have that option between those two, or three, or four, or five, or six. And that's when you start identifying with the one observes the patterns instead of being the pattern, right?
Yeah.
But that required for me, it's every day, that automatic, immediate pattern, if I'm not aware of it, guess what's going to take the steering wheel?
The automations.
It's
They have
there.
to, right?
It's there.
Yeah. They say that and the numbers vary on this. So who knows, but it's a lot. We'll say a quantity of your thoughts, 50,000 to 70,000 a day is what you have in thoughts. They say 70% of those are negative. They say 5% are original. So most of what we think is automation and habituation.
Yeah.
And it's the 5%, that little spark, like you mentioned, that has the ability over time to become the new automatic thinking. And what I appreciate you hitting on is that it never goes away. I don't wake up in the morning and be like, I don't remember thinking that old way, because I don't have to remember it, because that old way shows up every morning to remind me of who I was and what we're supposed to do according to the automations I had yesterday. Yeah. And I have a chance at that time to say, am I going to continue that automation, or am I going to make an attempt with that sliver that I have to create a new automation?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. It's when I found meditation. And I found it many, many times, but then I did it like 2 weeks. And then, I slid back to being busy. And then I did it for 3 months. And then I went on silent retreats. But that 5%, I'm going to speak for me, when I meditate, I connect to that 5%.
Mm.
I give it space. And then I start to see, wait a minute. First of all, this thing is even more busier than I thought, right? Because most
Yeah.
people were not aware. You cannot see your thinking from your thinking, right?
Yeah.
Kind of hard. Your ego tells you, oh, we found a pattern. Oh, great. Now we're responsible for the pattern. Let's do it. No way. It's just another trick, right?
Yeah. And
It's
that
just
sneaky
another,
bastard will think it's you thinking the thinking, you
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now let's fix it and blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
What I have found is that when I connect to me, when I meditate, and I do this every day, twice, and I have many moments where I just, when I make a decision, I just close my eyes. I go deep inside of me. I widen my perspective. I do this, literally this, so that I'm not just looking at one thing. I just widen it.
Okay.
And then I'm like, from this place, what would I decide? And from there, I can actually get in connection with that 5% so that 5% can grow and grow and grow and grow.
Okay.
And if I stop doing that, guess what happens?
You shrink and you go back to your automations, right?
Actually.
So I love the infinity symbol, right? If you just imagine it, and I've been using this a lot lately just because it just makes so much sense with what we're talking about even here. If the left side of that symbol is your past and the right side is your future and the center is your present moment, and all of it together is you and your identity and your impact in the world, what comes from that unique infinity symbol. What we've just talked about is the left side of that infinity circle is where most people get stuck and they stay there and they stay in their automations and they allow their automations to rule and they loop. And that present moment, what that does is it takes that loop and opens it up to possibility. And now it allows you to move to the right side of the circle. And here's where people also get stuck is on the right side. They continue to create, but they never loop back to the present to receive or to do this. Right.
Yeah.
So they move into the creative side of the circle and then they narrow their focus again and they get into automations around creation. And does that bring up anything as you hear that?
Yeah, of course. I've never heard it like that, but that actually makes a lot of sense. So instead of going from this automation, you go to the other automation, which is still automation, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the key is to just be present of what's running the show. Because like I said, if you only have one way of being, which for me was, I need to be successful, I need to know better, it's worse than having none, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to presence, when I go to my calmness, when I go to this place of observing the thoughts, I notice that I have a choice, right? Even if creating is running the show. And I know so many people, I just wrote this today, they have all these ideas, right? They're always creating. I don't think that's creating, actually. Having ideas is not creating. Most ideas are a repetition from the past, right? They just bring 2 or 3 ideas from the past together, and then all of a sudden they have something like, oh, wait a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
I take this idea and I twist it, and then it's a new idea. But I see so many brilliant people getting stuck at that level because they have all these ideas, and then they overwhelm themselves with all these ideas, and then they have like 50,000 ideas, and they're all brilliant. If they would only take one of them and implement it, they would become a millionaire, right? Or solve a big problem.
Yeah.
But they just overwhelm themselves staying in this whole field of all these ideas, right? And then they say, well, I cannot implement it. I don't have the right team. I don't know the right people. I don't know people who can help me. But it's costing you so much when you stay in the field of only in creating.
Okay, this is so cool. Like this completes some pieces for me in my mind, right? The constantly creating is a survival mode tactic as well. And it's a very ingenious one that our brain has created to keep us out there creating, but not implementing and not serving. And when you get into the survival mode, the left side of that infinity symbol and you're in survival mode, you're also not serving the world. You get into the creative mode and you're in there all the time. You're also not creating, you're not serving the world. And so the only place that you can do it is that point where the two meet, which is that present moment. because now you're thinking, how do I take what I've created out here and serve right now with it? How do I take my past and come back to the right now and serve with that? Because
Yeah.
that idea of coming back to that point right in the middle is that present moment, that X, that 0 point is the point where we have a chance to take action and really, like you said, you were very selfish in a way in your world. It was all about Rich Habets. And what I've noticed and experienced of you lately is it's not about Rich Habets. Rich Habets is out there serving people with what Rich Habets knows. And service doesn't mean non-compensation. I mean, that should be something that should be plugged as well.
Hmm.
You get compensated, and there are times where you're not compensated, where you take what you know and what you're creating and you bring it back to results. You put it into people's worlds and serve them. Is that how it's supposed to be? Is that how we could be? Like, how do you see that?
Well, first of all, with the infinity symbol, when you're in the middle, you have no past, you have no future.
Hmm.
Right? I think Byron Katie once said something like, "You want to be miserable, get yourself a future."
Yeah.
Which is basically all these ideas. Oh, I could implement this app, and then that would happen, and I would, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's the future you're creating, and then that becomes overwhelming, and all of a sudden, boom, you overwhelmed yourself again.
Yeah. Yep.
Being in the past, feeling guilty about stuff, and implementing something, and then not succeeding, and telling yourself the story. See, this always happens with me because I just implement something and then it doesn't work and nobody reacts to me. See, I'm not made for this stuff. And then they give up also. So they just repeat the past also to beat themselves up in the future.
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So the best way to be is just be here. Just be informed by the past. I wouldn't like to make the same mistake 15 times in a row. So it would be nice if the past could tell me, Rich, it doesn't work to cross the highway when you're on foot, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good strategy.
Don't
That'd
do
be
that.
nice, right?
Yeah.
That.
Yep.
But in other things, like, oh, you were turned down by that lady or girl when you were 13. So it's, according to that, never talk to women again. That would be a very bad strategy.
Yeah.
To follow. But most people, what we do is we don't heal, right? So I had to heal that episode with Tanya. I had to heal it. I had to go back to that little boy who felt so incredibly fucking insecure. Sorry for swearing.
No, don't be. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's well placed.
I had to go there.
Yep.
And just really go like, all right, oh my God, that boy was so humiliated. He felt shame. He felt guilt. He felt like he didn't belong, like the whole world was against him. Like 30 people laughing at me, right?
Yeah.
Laughing at me. Like when you're 13 and you're social, when you're conditioning and socially, that is like devastating. And I made it mean into, see, I don't belong to these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, Nick, the people I work with, I don't know if people know this, but I mostly work with corporations, right? So, and I work with leadership of these companies. I think 95% of people in leadership have a survival strategy that is sort of like mine, right? They might have decided other things, but they sort of have decided, like, I need to be smart, I need to be in control, I need to be better than, I need to be successful, I need to be dominant, right? Why do they decide to be dominant? Because they experienced something in the past where they felt humiliated, and now they think being dominant, the loudest person, is the best way to never ever feel that again, what they experienced in the past.
Yeah.
And they run around and they run that strategy all the time.
Man, we are, there's that quote, we are what we repeatedly do. Right. And that becomes our perceptions. It becomes our character. It becomes what results in the world. And this idea of going from ideas to results is everything's an idea. Truthfully, there's just many of what we're putting into the world are automated ideas, things that were handed down, culturalized, socialized. Yeah. And so, when we're using our framework, the 12 journeys, going back to the symbol, we say the roots, the shoots, and the fruits. It's that the roots are all of the internal world, the non-consciousness, the awareness, the grief and the heavier emotions, the acceptance, the gratitude and the empowerment, and they loop you back to the present. And then you go to the growth side of it, and on the putting out into the world side, and you go into the uncertainty, the abundance, the vision, surrender, nurture, and all of that is your impact or your legacy. And so when we move into the ideas stage where we get to start creating as a strategy, if you haven't healed the roots, then your shoots consist of whatever's going on in the roots.
Yeah.
And so these CEOs who have it figured out, okay, I can hide behind success. What society deems as a healthy person is somebody that can pay their bills or has plenty of money or can go on that trip. And their relationships are falling apart. They don't have kids that want to be around them, right? Their health is dying. They're, spiritually, devoid of any belief system, and so even though on the outside it looks like, oh, they're succeeding, they're in there going, I feel like a mess. Yeah. I feel like I'm just barely holding this all together. Is that accurate for you?
Of course. And then you cannot share it with anybody, because what if somebody thinks I'm not successful, or what if what if people think I'm a failure, or what if people think I'm an imposter, or or
what if I do? Yeah, get discovered.
And the higher you go up, the less people you have around. You cannot, if let's say you're a CEO of a company, you cannot go to your board because, hey, they might think like, hey, is this guy still the right guy to run the company, or woman to run the company?
Yeah.
If they're vulnerable, they cannot go to peers because they're competitors. So often they go to who? To a trusted advisor or a coach.
Oh my gosh. Right? That vulnerability key is they can't be vulnerable. That could cost them everything. And I've had many people they think. But I've had people tell me that, Rich, like, Nick, you overshare. You can't be telling people about your life and your personal life because you will kill your business. And in some degree, everything that's been built in my world has come from vulnerability. Yeah. Anytime I've had any movement in my world, it's because of me sharing what I'm going through vulnerably, willing to be wounded. But I'm also taught and conflicted with this dissonance of don't do that. That's not how you succeed in business. You're killing your business. Do you have a view on that? How do you balance that?
Well, I'm like you. I'm not sharing everything everywhere. I'm sharing when it's functional, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sharing like I'm walking around and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to share something. Now, when I feel like I have a story or something in my past that would help somebody else, I would certainly share. I have no secrets at all, right? The thing with the lady, with Tanya,
yeah,
for years, I couldn't share that because I felt humiliated. People would think of me. So I actually think humility shows you, first of all, you need to be complete with something before you can share it at a level of, not.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So that's a good sign. And when you share something very vulnerable, people around you have that same thing going on, but they have it buried somewhere in their psyche. And then they see somebody like you sharing that and they go like, holy crap, he shares it. Maybe I can do it too. So, and by the way, all these CEOs and these successful people that like what's called success in the modern world, we all know they're not happy. Right? Just walk into a room with I shouldn't be saying this, but because these people are my clients, but I walk into a room and you see nobody happy. And I ask them, so I literally say, you all must be very successful. And they say, yes. And I say, I can tell. And they say, why? I said, because you're so happy and the light shoots out of your eyes. And they all look at me like, is he serious? I said, yeah. Where's the happiness? Where's the satisfaction? Where's the aliveness? I was with a team of German people in the financial business, all wearing the pinstripe suits, right? And the nice glasses and the nice hair and all. Oh, it looked very, very, very nice. And I made a joke and nobody laughed. They all look at each other like, and I seriously said, by the way, it's a long time ago. I said, who died in this group? Because, from this place of seriousness, you're not going to see anything new. I once had this session with a Polish team. Can I share this?
Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So context is not just personal. It's also in a culture of a country, right? And it's everywhere, right? So the Polish context for work is that work has to be serious. Work is serious, right? You don't joke around or you don't kid around at work. Work is serious. Comes back from old communist times, and right. So I was doing a session with his team, and they weren't interacting or engaging at all. And I just felt like this is hard work.
Yeah.
And then I called a break, and they went to the coffee machine, and all of a sudden I saw them laughing. I heard them laughing. I saw them patting each other on the back, giving hugs. And I'm sitting there like, what just happened? They're totally different at the coffee machine than they're in the group. So I said, okay, everybody, let's come back. Let's start. So they sit in the seats, and again, straight faces.
Holy cow, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, can I ask you something? Why are you laughing and patting each other on the back and being nice and kind to each other over there? And here you're sitting all straight up. You have a straight face. Nobody's laughing. You barely share anything. And it took a while for them to say, well, now that you talk about it, in Poland, work is supposed to be serious. You don't joke around, because then you're not professional. And when you make a joke, they think you're not serious and that you maybe don't even deserve your job.
Huh.
And I thought, wow. So that makes perfect sense. Their behavior makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
If the context for me would be, this is serious, then of course I wouldn't crack a joke.
Yeah.
So this is the whole thing that is so important to go from ideas to implementation. If you don't get radically honest with yourself first, where you are now, and that can be as a person, that can be as a group, as a company, as a country, whatever, you have to be willing to get so radically honest about where you are now. Because if you're not, forget about creating anything. You cannot create anything if you don't know where you are. It's like the GPS, right? I want to go to Amsterdam. The GPS will ask me, where are you now? Well, I don't want to tell you. Well, the GPS will tell me, I don't know how to send you there. I don't know where you are right now. I don't know how to plan that. And the same is true with organizations. The biggest work I do with organizations, like when we do 3-day sessions, the first day and a half is about getting so honest about where they're now, because if they're not, we cannot build anything.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
So I can hear it. My head is spinning with ideas here. Going back to the vulnerability and bringing it forward to where we are currently. The vulnerability, that willingness to be wounded, sharing from a trauma response versus sharing from service, or that humility, that teachability, and that humility to be able to share when it makes sense and in context. So share in ways that this would actually serve somebody that's sitting across from me or that might read this. I think this will serve them, versus I need people to hear this because I'm dying inside and I've got this trauma response that's showing up and I just need to share because that's my trauma response. And then you have culture that comes in. So these gentlemen from Poland don't joke around in work, but at the water cooler they do. And being able to see the context for sharing. Why is it that they're doing that? Well, that's what we were taught. This is our culture. This is our society. This is who we are. When we're working, if we're not serious, we're not serious. So we can't joke when we're working. And then using all of that to come together with, the honesty and radical honesty, radical meaning from your roots, and honest. One of my definitions that I use is to take ownership of what's going on at your roots.
Yeah.
And being able to speak that clearly, because once you know where you are, you can acknowledge it without resigning to it. You acknowledging where you are isn't a resignation. I hear people say that you can't accept your life because then it sounds like you're just giving up. No, I'm telling you, my life is what it is, and it was what it was, and I'm also not giving up. Yeah. Is that how you see it as well, Rich?
Absolutely. Yeah. If most people use the past to punish themselves currently today.
Yeah.
Right? But if you can really look back and look like, oh my God, I was such an arrogant guy. I can totally understand why most people didn't want to work with me, because I had to know everything better. Must have been incredibly hard to work with me.
And then they stayed there, right?
Yeah. I called up people from my past, people that I got into verbal conversations with that weren't, ending too well.
Yeah.
I actually called them up and I said, I totally understand. I got fired. A guy was named Jean something. I actually, for years, I thought he was treating me very badly.
Huh.
right? I blamed him. I blamed him, and this guy, and blah, blah, blah. How did he dare me? He didn't have enough information, and he just did it on a Friday afternoon. How could he? Blah, blah, blah. Actually, when it became clear to me that I would have fired me like even quicker than he did, I called him up and I said, "Look, can we have send him a LinkedIn message? Can we have a conversation?" And I just completed that conversation. I said, "You know what? It must have been so tough to be my boss because I knew everything better. I interrupted you in management
Mhm.
meetings. I thought I had to fix for anything. Why did you leave me there for 6 months? Why didn't you fire me like a dog after a month?" Right? And he said, "Well, I don't remember you." That was his first reaction.
Huh.
And then I said, "Well, I apologize for being that guy. I must have been a pain in the ass for you." And you know what? That for me cleans it. So no more here. Done. Complete. Move on.
Forgiveness, right? That is I'm not gonna no more harm over this.
No more. No
Yeah.
more. Clean it up. Move on.
Yeah. Hmm. For him
Otherwise,
to
it just
say,
weighs you down, man. It just keeps weighing like you're having this weight on your back, right? Just clean it up. Complete it.
holy cow, it's for you though. He's like, I don't even know who you are. I don't remember you. And
I
you're
don't.
weighed down by it. You're the really the burden that you're lifting is letting go of this stuff that you've held on to as the reason for dot dot dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to go from ideas to results is really cleaning up the ideas and the idea generator that you have, because when you can start to heal that, I think Steve Hardison calls it frosting dog poop.
Yeah.
Until you clean that up and you start putting stuff on it, you're just frosting dog poop. You're not really taking care of what's getting in the way of the idea generation, because we are all so capable of great things, every one of us.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and,
Absolutely.
and it's our thoughts and our judgments and justifications and shaming and guilting that get in the way of us doing something great.
That's it. That's the key of everything. If you don't clean that up, everything that gets created will eventually be stopped by a reason, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I have this distinction between reasons and source,
Mm.
right? So in a conversation of an organizational context, when I work with companies, they always, when something doesn't work or something is not going the way they want it to go, they look for reasons, right? They look for why didn't it work. Well, we didn't have the right people, or we didn't have enough money, or we didn't have budget, or we didn't have the right scope, or we didn't give it enough priority. They look for reasons,
Mm.
right? But when you look for reasons, you always find solutions, right? So they might say, "Oh, we don't have the right people. That's the reason this project failed. So we need to hire better people." So guess what? They now start a project and they need more people.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what organizations do. And guess what? They start project after project after project after project after project because they're looking in the wrong direction. They're looking in the direction of reasons. What I'm saying is when something isn't working, and that can be on an individual level, don't look for reason, look for source. What's the source of me not being able to finish this book that I'm reading, for instance? Not what's the reason. Oh, the reason is that I'm lazy. All right, now I have to be not lazy. All right, so let's go to a gym. Let's first, and have some commitment and integrity. But no. But when I look at source, what's that the source of me
That's
not
beautiful.
finishing this book?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, the source is that I have the writing the book, and there's a certain context, a certain conversation that I'm having with myself about writing a book.
Mm.
And when I investigate that, I clean that up because I don't need to fix it. I just need to be clear what's in the way between me and writing the book. Oh, it's because I think it's hard. I think nobody will buy the book when I have it finished. Maybe it's a waste of time. And
Yeah.
when I see that, it gets cleaned up and I write the book automatically. Same with projects in organizations. When so many organizations, they screw themselves up by not listening.
Yeah.
If they would only look at why do projects always go over budget, and they would really look and like, it's because nobody's listening. That's the source. The source
Mm.
is how we listen to each other. And the source is that we live in a world of expectations in this company, not in the world of agreements. Right? Oh, so we better, recreate ourselves as being somebody who listens. What does it look like to listen? It's not another project. It's not another program. It's not another whatever. So look for source instead of reasons. Reasons get you into more busyness from your current thinking. Source takes you out of your current thinking and makes you have an insight. Does that make sense, those two?
Oh, absolutely. The distinction that I'm hearing is, when somebody in our journey of acceptance, we talk about justification and judgment, and how when you get into justification, and we'll call that reason for here, is that you no longer have to learn because you're really only looking at the surface level. So you don't go back to the source because the source is back at the non-conscious level. And so when you get into justification or reason or judgment, you don't have to learn anything. I think it was Carl Jung who said that people judge because it's easier than thinking. And the thing with judgment is you don't have to think. You don't have to go back to your source. Yeah. And that's where most people hang out, is they play the victim of their life, or the martyr of their life, or the reason. They have reasons for being who they are, justifications for who they are. These are valid stories. I mean, in a way, they're being honest. They're telling their truth, but they're only telling their truth from their reasons, from their justifications, from their judgments. And therefore, their truth is only surface level. Because if they got back to the source, they'd find out that I am not what happened to me. I'm not the meaning that I gave to something. I'm not this. This is what's really going on. Let's clean that up and come back to the present and implement it. Right?
Yeah, beautiful. That's when you see companies starting all these projects, or people going on all these courses, reading all these books, watching all these videos, because they have to fix the reason that they're not okay with themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
But the moment I start seeing, wait a minute, this little boy that Rich has inside of him that got hurt when he was 13, all we need is some healing. All we need to insightfully go like, oh, wait a minute. That's why he needs to be smart all the time, because he was so hurt that he couldn't be popular. He couldn't be loved. By the way, he made that up, right? It's not true. He made that up in a moment. That's why he's now running all the time, to prove people, hey, look at me. I'm worth it. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be understood.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, he's chasing everybody away because nobody likes a smart ass.
What I find interesting too is that corporate behavior is a mirror of human behavior. It's just scaled. And so it's the same behaviors. You still have non-consciousness. You still have judgments and justifications. You still have emotions of a corporation or non-emotions of a corporation. You have non-acceptance. You have non-gratitude. You have non-empowerment. You have constant creation, where it's just a result of trying to survive, companies trying to survive. It's no different. Human behavior is just modeled in corporate behavior. It's the same thing.
And exemplified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not exemplified, amplified, not exemplified. Yeah. Look at, funny exercise. Just go on LinkedIn.
Okay.
For anybody. Just go on LinkedIn and Google CEO or VP or whatever, and then look at the profiles of the people that have these roles in companies, right?
Yeah.
They all say the same thing. They're all excellent people leaders.
Yeah.
They're all great listeners. They all have a track record of accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
So in every single profile, what you see there is that I'm not enough in action. They're all coming from this place of I'm not enough. Every once in a while, you see a different kind of profile and different words, but most specifically, a different kind of energy. There's nobody here who needs to prove themselves. There's nobody here who needs to convince the world, right? And then you see a healed person. You see it in the text. You see it even on a LinkedIn profile. You see it in their pictures, right? And the most funny thing to me ever is the people who say, I'm a problem fixer. Now, let me ask you, Nick, when you say you're a problem fixer, how do you see the world? Who are you being when you say that you're a problem fixer?
Okay, this is fresh for me. I've heard this over and over for years, decades. People say, come from that space. And when I hear I'm a problem fixer, well, everybody's got a problem that I can fix. But when I come from service, that means whatever skills or knowledge or abilities I have over here, I can use those to improve and help other people improve their lives. I come from that space of wanting to be of service to them. And so that's where I've been trying to come from, is more from service rather than a problem fixer, is how can I serve the person that's in front of me?
Yeah.
Now, maybe I didn't hear you properly, and maybe you can help me with that.
No, but you had that
Problem
beautifully. But two things, right? So
Yep.
when I identify with being a problem fixer, where I'm coming from is that there's a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Who I'm
Got it.
being is there's a problem. So automatically, immediately, who I am is that there's a problem and I need to fix it.
Got it. Okay.
As long as I don't look at the, remember, source, the
Yep.
source is that I see the world as if there's a problem.
Mm.
Because somebody who looks at the world, there's a problem, is always looking for solutions. Somebody who doesn't think there's a problem and knows that everything is perfectly fine as it is, and everything's one, and everything's good as it is, they're not a problem fixer. There's nothing to fix, because the place they're coming from is there is no problem.
Mm.
Right? And then service. I'm here with you. I'm not in service to you. I'm not in service. By the way, this is how I see it. I'm not in service to you. I'm not in service to anybody. I'm here with you.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Right? Because when I need to serve you, there's still two of us. There's Nick and there's Rich. And Nick needs to serve Rich, and Rich needs to serve Nick, or whatever. What if we're just one, which is the ultimate truth? You and I are one, and we're having a conversation. And from there, everything flows. There's nobody of service. There's just two people.
I like that. Yeah.
Being present with each other. There's no need for service, because service implies that there's a person and another person.
Okay. Okay.
If everything is one, is there still service?
No, like you're saying, there's a withness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Witness. Yeah. That's more close. Yeah.
Yeah. The idea of serving means that somebody needs to be served. Right.
Sounds better than fixing or changing or.
Well, yeah, it's more fancy for sure. Right.
Yeah.
But the being with somebody is really you're hearing it. And you're with them in whatever they're in, but you're not at a level above or below, that's where I could see that. And that goes back to teachings from long ago, is you got to be in service of others. The greatest among you shall be your servant. And, things like that. And so I like the context that you put it in of being with somebody. Just be with them. If they're facing a challenge, they're facing a challenge. If they're having a dialogue, we're having a dialogue. That's what we're doing, because we're together in that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Am I hearing you?
Yeah, absolutely. For a long time, I screwed myself up. From when I was coaching somebody, I need to be of service. I need to be of service. I need to be of service. But when I'm thinking about, I need to be of service, who's listening to you? Why am I not just present with you?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
You. Like Steve Hardison, the Be With session, right? It's not called Being of Service session. It's called the Be With.
The laughter comes from a realization, right? Like the genius of that, the Be With you. That is a distinction I haven't caught till today, otherwise it would be called a Being in Service to You session, right?
Yeah. Being in service to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rich, as we come to the close of this, is there anything that you feel, there are people right across the screen from us watching this live, some will watch later. Is there a message that comes to mind that you feel needs to be shared with that person?
Yeah. It's a rather radical one.
Okay.
I need to say this because I need to remind myself of this. And I have been needing to remind myself of this for many, many times. There's no truth outside of you. There's no truth in your teacher, in your coach, in a book, in a video. And we all know this, right? It's been said many, many times. But I see so many people around me looking for something to hold on to, right?
Mm.
When I look back, my grandpa and grandma, they lived like 50 years ago. They were married to the same person their whole life. My grandpa had the same job, and they went to church, and that was a community, and that's what gave them a lot of security
Right.
and meaning and identity, right? That gave them, and they were very, very happy people. They never owned a car, never traveled, never were on a plane, lived in like the same town their whole lives, blissed out of their minds. People nowadays, people don't stay married, right? Divorce rates are up here in the
Yeah.
Netherlands.
Yeah.
Church, nobody goes to church. We're turning them into apartments and bookstores here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
They're empty. And jobs for life. Well, people job hop and they get fired and, downsize and all that stuff. So the things that they held on to for meaning and identity are no longer around. So people look for meaning everywhere. And they go on yoga retreats and they read books, and the self-help industry is so huge, right? And they go on coaching schools and they go on, but look, it's not there as much as you would like it. Sure, there are people that are looking in the same direction, but it's always and only here.
Mm.
Can I say one more thing? Do we have 3 minutes?
Oh yeah, we have plenty. Yep.
3 levels of wisdom, right? 3 levels of level 1, reading a book and knowing about something. Right? That's level 1 of wisdom. Oh, read a book about spirituality and it touches me, and now I know about it, right? I know that I'm more than this body.
Okay. Yeah.
Level 2 is knowing something and getting it confirmed. So I read the book, and now I'm in a community with people, and they all read the book, and I know that I actually got what was in the book, and now see it even deeper, right? Level 3 is first-person experience. Most people stop from 2 to 3 because 3 requires looking here. Self-investigation, meditation, thousands of years old meditation, proven by science these days, meditation, right? The effects of meditation. Most people stop from 2 to 3. Let me give you like a very concrete example, right? Level 1 is going to a menu, to a restaurant and seeing the menu, and there's a hamburger on there, right? It's a hamburger you've never seen before. It's called the Chihuahua burger. I don't know, right? You had never had a Chihuahua burger, but it's a
Never
Chihuahua
have.
burger.
Yep. I'm hungry now. Yeah.
Exactly. So most people, they see that and they've had hamburgers in the past and they go like, oh, I love hamburgers in the past. And this Chihuahua burger, I have no idea what it is. I never had it, these ingredients, but their mouth starts saliving, right? And they start feeling like, oh, hamburger, oh my God. And they already start tasting the hamburger.
Yeah.
But where's that taste coming from? Is it coming from the Chihuahua burger or their past?
Definitely the past.
Exactly. Yep. The hamburgers from the past. It's not the Chihuahua burger, but they think it must be something like that. So they look at the menu, and now the waiter comes and they say, hey, the Chihuahua burger, is that any good? And he says, that's the best item on the whole menu. It's the top seller. Everybody orders it. Look around you. Everybody's having the Chihuahua burger. Now you get confirmed that the Chihuahua burger is actually a really excellent choice.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But you still have no fucking idea what that thing is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think you do, but no, zero. You have zero experience of the Chihuahua burger. But if people would ask you, you have a story around it, right? If most people eat the menu card. They're happy with the concept and the explanation, but they don't order the burger. Now, if I order the burger and it's put in front of my face and I take a bite out of it, now I've had the experience and I go like, oh, but this is different. I've never had like lettuce and tomato and an actual Chihuahua on a hamburger. Yeah. Now you have first-person experience. But bringing that back to life, most people eat the menu. They're satisfied with insight. They're satisfied with people confirming that they're on the right path, right? Or with a group of people that confirm their point of view. But it's nothing like that first-person experience.
Yeah,
nothing like. You only get that, not from groups, not from books, not from videos, not from coaching schools, not from programs. You don't get that anywhere. You get it from looking here, getting radically honest, meditating, ayahuasca, all those things. That's where you get to see how it applies to you. And that's the only thing that counts. Everything else is just mental, like neurons firing in your brain.
Yeah.
It's representation, not the actual thing.
It opens it up, to anybody. Anybody can have anything. There's no limitation other than the limitations we create. Chris Smith talks about possibility exists. You have a company called Possibility. The idea is that we all have it available to us. We all have possibility. We all have abundance. We're surrounded by resources. There's no limitation of that. We have access to it more than at any other time in history. And so the only thing that can really get in the way that's created is limitation and our inability to see beyond, our own perceptions, eating the menu and never trying the burger. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Or people know about keto.
Yeah.
Right. And they got confirmed that keto is really good. And science is having all these reports that keto is good. You only know it when you do it. And you do it for 3 months. And now you have an experience and you go like, holy shit, my blood values get better. Holy crap, I lost weight. Holy shit, I got more energy. That is the only thing that counts in life. Most people talk about keto, right? At birthday parties. Hey, have you heard about keto? Well, maybe it's nice, maybe it's not, but they have no experience, which in the end, you're just a mental representation.
Yeah. Wow. I've enjoyed this. I know we could keep going.
Yeah, probably.
It's beautiful. I've been through, like I mentioned earlier, I've been through your program twice, and it's incredibly valuable. If you're a coach or consultant and you're looking for a framework, Rich's program teaches you how to be a trusted advisor to CEOs, because they really, they're humans. They're humans they're going through what you and I are going through. And if you can be with them in a way that helps them to be with their employees and their companies, then that's going to improve their lives. I would invite you to explore what he's put together. It's powerful. If you go back, I'm going to pull the website up again, www.beingata.com. Being a trusted advisor is what that stands for. I know it will serve you. So I hope you do that. Hugh started keto yesterday. That's perfect. For those that are watching, we appreciate you. There is gold in this conversation and the 280 plus other conversations that we've had. But in this conversation specifically, if you know somebody that would benefit from this conversation, share it with them. Send it to them. Let them know why they should watch this video. Tell them about Rich Habets and what he's up to. And as always, come and join us on Wake Up with Giants TV on YouTube and share our podcast out there. We're grateful to have you here. Rich, thanks for being here with us today. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, just that I think you're amazing. You're fantastic. And thank you for being with me. I really enjoyed this. And yes, we could go on for another 3 hours. I'm sure.
No doubt. No doubt. And we'll have to create something around that. I have some ideas coming up. I appreciate you. For those that are watching, remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're doing what you need to be doing. Keep stepping, keep learning, keep growing. You are a giant. We love you, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.